Welcome to r/Prorevenge, where OP utterly destroys someone's life. Our next Reddit post is from Deleted. So, a little over a week ago, I caught my dad's whore of a wife at a hotel pool with a man that I'll call steroid douche. Guess what they were doing? Hint, not swimming. See, my dad's wife and steroid douche have some history. About a year ago, she left my dad for this guy. This was a mere 6 months after my father married her. So, my dad let her go and started divorce stuff. Unfortunately, she came crawling back to him before the divorce could happen. She claimed that steroid douche beat her, that he doesn't love her, that she made a mistake. So, my dumb dad takes her back. Now, here she is only 4 months later playing tonsil hockey with steroid douche at a hotel pool when she should be at her office working. She didn't see me and my husband, so we took some super sweet pictures and slipped out of there. I'm not gonna lie, I was super pissed. I was gonna send the pictures off to my dad right then and there. However, my husband and I decided that there was more that could and should be done. Now, I'll try to keep this brief, but there's something I need to add. My dad has supported this woman and her children for years, and she is not a cheap woman to have around. She's only very recently gotten herself a job, a very nice one in fact. She's actually in the process of owning about 1/3 of the business. My sisters and I have speculated that this recent success might be because of some extramarital activities with the fairly wealthy, recently divorced business owner who spontaneously took this woman under her wing. Let's call this man business owner. Now, I had no proof that she was cheating on my dad with business owner. I only had proof that she was doing it with steroid douche. However, I figured it wouldn't hurt to reach out to business owner with my findings to see how he would react. Since she was supposed to be at work, she must have called off, right? So I called her office. "Hi, this is OP. Is business owner there?" The business owner said, "Hi OP, is everything okay with Karen?" "Well, kind of. It depends. How close are you really with my dad's wife?" Excuse me? Never mind. Look, I'm gonna be straight with you. Karen is out with steroid douche when she should be there working. Silence. Hello? Why should I believe you? All you've done is lie about Karen. Yeah, my dad's wife is a permanent victim. I'll send you some pictures that I took. I sent business owner the pictures and get no response. I decide to call steroid douche's gym, which is also my gym. There's been a pretty awful rumor going around about steroid douche. Apparently, he's been selling steroids to fellow gym members. So, I told the gym that this guy tried to sell me steroids there last week, which was a lie. I told them that I didn't feel safe going there anymore, so I'd like to cancel my membership. They asked if I was going to go to the cops and file a report. I told them no, that steroid douche was prone to anger and I didn't want to risk retaliation. They understood and canceled my membership. So then finally, after all that, I sent the photos to my dad, along with a long, drawn-out message about supporting him and loving him and whatnot. A week later, here's the results. The whore of a wife lost her job and any chance at being a co-owner. The business owner publicly trashed her in the office and actually made a huge scene, which led to a pretty nasty, heavily detailed review on a local Facebook rant page from a customer who was in that establishment at the time. Our town is pretty small, so reviews like that can be a bit damaging. And because of the contents, it really hurt whore wifey's image. Someone even shared a story about her husband having an affair with my dad's wife 3 years ago at her last job. And wouldn't you know it, steroid douche had rented out a locker at the gym. Since the waiver you signed to rent a locker allows the gym to open your locker whenever they feel necessary, steroid douche ended up getting his locker searched. What they found in the locker, according to the police blotter, was a freaking unregistered handgun. So, steroid douche is probably going to prison. Oh, by the way, did I mention that he's a felon? Yeah, you can guess how that worked out for him. Bye-bye. Now, my dad's wife is living in a hotel. Between her getting fired and then steroid douche going to prison, my dad threw her out. She's super upset about steroid douche. Hysterical, to be more precise. She refuses to come see her kids, who are still living with my dad. My dad is being civil and trying to keep everything super calm for them. She doesn't seem to care about my dad or the kids at all, though. She did give me a call. I let it go to voicemail. I couldn't really make out what she said, but between the shrieks and sobbing, I caught, "I'm going to kill you," and "You ruined my life." I might get a restraining order, I don't know yet, but I'm kinda giddy about this. My dad will hopefully start being happier. Our next Reddit post is from Few Understand Satoshi. So I was a new but qualified recruit in a small team that was working with a very large client and stakeholder in the company. Despite my skills, it was my first real job fresh out of grad school, so I was inexperienced with office politics, contract law, power hierarchies, etc. The client had given us an almost impossible task to prototype a complex solution to a technical problem that they had. As the only one in the team with the relevant expertise, the burden quickly fell on me to deliver alone while the others essentially managed. The team leader promised me at the beginning that I would get a bonus worth roughly 30% of my salary. Apparently, this bonus was a direct financial contribution from the big client themselves. And so, I started working to get this extra cash. Everything was great, but not really because it wasn't in writing. Over the next 2 years, no such bonus appeared. I would periodically and half-heartedly ask about this bonus during in-person meetings, and I was verbally reassured that it was on its way. In hindsight, I should have been more assertive and perhaps sent an email, but again, I was a newbie and unwilling to bite the hand that feeds, so to speak. After these 2 years, my company began to expand business with the client as a direct result of my work. At some point, the clients even presented all of my hard work at some international conference. Of course, they claimed that it was their intellectual property. Although they were right and it all rightfully and lawfully belonged to them, the lack of acknowledgement left a bitter taste in my mouth. And even worse, money was flowing and both companies were profiting after 2 years of my painstaking effort. But still, no bonus in sight. So my work contract was nearing its end in the 3rd year. Obviously, the company wanted to retain me to continue on this project. I was the only one who knew the ins and outs of it. So I was offered a decent increase in my salary, but that missing bonus was ruining my trust. At a contract negotiation meeting, I asked about it one last time. The team leader said they had no recollection of such an agreement or an offer, and that I should have gotten one in writing. Fair enough, some lessons are learned the hard way. But the worst realization is that my missing bonus was actually going towards an intern who was supposed to join me on the project. It was almost an exact calculation, as the client would sponsor the intern with the funds that were intended as a bonus for me. It was the last week of the work contract, and Human Resources had invited me to double-check the document before I signed it. Of course, given all the time, money, training, and resources invested in me continuing on this project, it was assumed that I would be here for the long haul, and the work contract was a formality. So what happened next is something that I do not recommend that anyone try at home. It was a moment of impulse from a reckless youth. However, I was feeling particularly vengeful about this missing bonus. My ego had been bruised because I wrongly trusted them to follow through, but I wasn't clever enough to get the agreement in writing. Well, there was also no written agreement on my end. I hadn't signed the contract. I carefully double-checked my emails, and there was nothing in writing where I agreed to continue this project, or even with this job. The first new workday rolls around when I'm officially no longer employed at the company or with the clients. I gave no notice, no warnings. I just abandoned them. On the previous day, I had left my company pager and phone in the office locker. I had to sacrifice a few personal possessions on the office desk. I logged out of the work email and messenger system so they couldn't reach me. I'm not sure what happened because I ignored and deflected every single communication that came at me for the following months. It was bliss knowing that I probably caused this company a major catastrophe for the next few years at least. Apparently, my old company still exists, but it's a shell of its former self as things went horribly south after I left. They lost the big client, as I anticipated. No one else had the skill set to do the work. But I couldn't have predicted the domino effect that followed in that company. A few other large clients followed soon after because staff had to be reshuffled to do my project. And then those other clients felt neglected. Now, my old company is downsizing and in the process of being swallowed by a competitor. From what I gather, the other big casualty of my revenge is that my ex-boss, who lied to me, developed some substance problem around this time to cope with the stress, triggered in part by not being able to contact me for months on end during a critical time in the company's expansion. Throw in a divorce too, because this work stress destroyed his marriage as well. I did feel a bit guilty when my ex-colleague explained all this, and I still do. My ex-boss did try to get in touch with me a few more times some years after things went downhill, but I was too busy, so I just continued ghosting him. And this missing bonus still eats at me from time to time. I could have bought a house, and I could have settled down in that old town. I wouldn't have been displaced for months and living with my head just above water, having to rebuild myself for a good few years following that ordeal. Our next Reddit post is from Decky Blue. I lived in the Dominican Republic after moving out of East Europe. This happened about 15 years ago. I suddenly started getting automated phone calls from a bank in which I had no account. The call was directed to somebody else, let's say Juan Martinez, and it would go like this. Esteemed Mr. Martinez, we're calling from such and such bank and it's about your debt. Please get in touch with us as soon as possible. We appreciate blah blah blah. Naturally, after the first several calls, I did nothing, and the call would come like once in like 7 to 10 days. Then I realized that they are not going to stop, so I called them. They would pass me from one department to another, and in the end, some person would say that they took all the data and that they will make sure that I'm not disturbed again. And, of course, the calls kept coming, and they always called during working hours. I called them at least 3 more times, and each time I had to explain what was going on, and again, they would pass me to another department. So frustrating. Then the call started coming at 1:30 a.m. I thought somebody died back home. Why else would they call at that hour? That really made me furious. I stayed awake for some time and came up with a plan. The next day, I dug up my old fax modem card and installed it on my PC. I worked as an IT tech guy, and I always kept all kinds of equipment. Then I went online and looked up their webpage where I found a link to all the branches in the city. I went to every branch and put down their fax number. Next, I created a document in Word telling them very politely to stop harassing me. I questioned their sanity of customer relations for calling clients after midnight. I gave them my home phone number and put "Stop harassing me" for the rest of the page. All the text was in the biggest bold letters that I could possibly put on one-letter page. Then I copy and pasted each page 100 times. Then I faxed this document to all 20 branches of the bank in the city. To this day, I smile when I picture them finding 100 pages of my fax, and then all the offices calling headquarters for the same issue. Naturally, I never received another call. Down in the comments, we have this story from Deleted. I had a newspaper calling me about subscriptions. I asked them to stop. I called them back and spoke to a supervisor who promised they would stop. After they called me about 20 more times, their plan worked. I went out and bought one of their newspapers. About half the local editors had their listed phone numbers. I called them all at home in the early evening and politely asked them to stop. One of them screamed at me for harassing her at home and threatened to call the cops. I told her to go ahead, but if the company she works for keeps calling me, then I was going to keep calling her. The business editor was both annoyed and amused. I never got another call again. Also, down in the comments, people are linking a similar story from Witwatts. I used to work in collections, which occasionally involved speaking with businesses about past due accounts. Whenever I dealt with these overdue businesses, their main tactic was postponement and delay of any kind. Negotiations could drag on for months, even if you were speaking to the principal payee or their lawyer. I would fax important paperwork, receive a fax confirmation, and yet somehow they didn't receive it. Oh geez, sorry, can you refax it? My response was to apologize for the confusion and ask them if it was okay for me to continue to refax the paperwork until they finally receive a copy. I would always receive a smug "sure" from them because they had no intention of acknowledging receipt and planned on simply throwing the fax away. So they thought. I would make 3 copies of the bill, tape them end to end, feed the first copy into the fax, and as the top came out, quickly tape it to the bottom of the third copy, making an endless loop for faxing. Within the hour, I would receive a call screaming obscenities about their jammed fax machine and how much trouble I was in. My response was, "So, you acknowledge receipt of my fax?" But. Sorry, you said I could do it. Our next Reddit post is from Deleted. I worked for a great company that I really liked. I'm a nice person and get along with almost anybody, except for Murray. I don't know to this day what it was about him, but we just didn't like each other. I was mature about it and would still work with him regardless of any personal feelings. I was up for a promotion, and it was really only between me and another guy. This guy was very good friends with Murray. When I didn't get the promotion, another friend told me that Murray had personally gone to the hiring manager and badmouthed me and likely cost me the job. So I played the long game on this one. Murray's a bit of an alcoholic and would brag about knowing how to drive home avoiding check stops and getting pulled over. We had a staff party and, of course, he gets really drunk. I stayed until he was leaving and called the cops. I gave his plate number and where to find him. He got caught, lost his license, and since he lived out of town, almost couldn't get to work. Since he was leaving a work event, his manager also got in hot water for letting it happen. By the way, his manager knew what Murray did to me and did nothing about it. And he also got in trouble with his boss as well. I almost cost Murray his job. He got a fine and he lost his license. All that for screwing with my career. Revenge is sweeter when you play the long game. That was r/Prorevenge, and if you like this content, check out my podcast where I publish the exact same episodes. Also, hit that subscribe button because I put out new Reddit videos every single day.